All right, Event Trader here. Apologies for the delay, but just going to do a run around and take a look at what we should be looking out for next week. Another busy week in earnings and a couple of notable macro events that should keep the markets on their toes and hopefully generate a little bit of volatility, which I know we've all been looking for and have yet to find. Certainly, it's been an inconclusive start to the earnings season in terms of pushing us in a direction, but not something that we want to just turn our backs on. Want to keep a close eye on this action, as we probably should see a little bit of busy activity and positioning ahead of the August month, which obviously always usually tends to be as quiet as it gets. We're going to take a look at some of the earnings themes first, and then I'll just pop through each of the different subsections and provide any thoughts or color on that. First off, we got earnings, which should be the most important item over the course of the week. Obviously, any unexpected headlines could take shape there, but it's going to be one of the busiest weeks for earnings that we have when you're looking at it from a qualitative and quantitative basis. There's 180 companies in the S&P expected to report, and this should provide us with a little bit more insight into what the market's reacting, as we'll get some reaction to these reports, of course, and also follow-up action to the likes of Microsoft and Netflix, just giving us a little bit more insight into the market sentiment in terms of holding some of these positions. But and I'll go through some of the names down below here in a second, but that's certainly going to be a key theme. Next up, we got the EU-US trade talks, which is on Wednesday. This is going to be between President Donald Trump and the EU Representative Jean-Claude Juncker. So obviously we'd like to see a little bit more clarity. Larry Kudlow really set the table for this, raising the expectations when he was at his that CNBC interview at Delivering Alpha, when he stated that the markets might be pleasantly surprised by what comes out from this meeting. I think that could be pretty tough to follow up with, but certainly some ratcheted up expectations. And that's going to lead into Thursday's ECB meeting, which could certainly be of interest. Obviously, we saw the president hitting out against the monetary policies from the ECB, noting that they've been keeping rates too long, and the euro's too weak. And, personally, I agree with them. I don't always agree with the form that he decides to deliver it in, but, myself and Brett Mann, Chart Trader, had discussed this, where the real rates in Europe are somewhere in the realm of minus 5% when you take into account inflation, GDP growth, and stuff. So, there's been a lot of concerns around that, and just the fact that how long the ECB has been looking to keep on hold, and the fact that they're not planning on raising rates at all until next summer. But we should get an update on the path for there. I wouldn't expect them to move much, but Mr. Draghi's tone could really depend a lot on what goes on with the EU and US trade summit. So I'll be curious to see what to expect from that ECB meeting. To be honest, I don't know what I will expect until I see how those trade talks go on Wednesday. Then next up, I got the PMI sentiment there. This preliminary look gives us little forward projections into business sentiment for manufacturing and services in Japan, Europe, and the U.S. So a good percentage of the global GDP is answered at that point. So definitely want to keep an eye on these numbers, see how they're trending. They basically, after a while of slowing down from pretty lofty levels, they've flattened out a little bit. So I want to see which direction they go. I'm expecting a bit of a consolidation in that sentiment survey readings. And then finally, we got the G20 meeting, which is going to be over the week and really could help provide the market with some direction into early going. This is the finance minister and central banker meeting. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin will be the representative for the U.S. So, he's been one of the more dovish members on trade, so there's the potential for some positive headlines coming out from there. Any commentary, any follow-up commentary with regards to the dollar or the beggar thy neighbor policies that the president discussed could certainly be addressed here. So we want to keep an eye out for that, and read up on any of the items out over the weekend and see how much the market's picking up on it in terms of a directional bias to start the week off. And that's going to be the key themes, I think, for the next 7 days. Taking a quick look at some of these sub-segments here on the U.S. economic data front. A little bit more housing data due out here. The housing data has certainly been a disappointment, but the XHB has actually been holding up well. I mean, it certainly got rejected at the 200-day, but the fact that it was even able to test the 200-day, I think, is a testament to some of the buying strength that's going on there, given some of the misses that we saw. I mean, that housing starts building permits miss was the biggest percentage miss since 2007, and then NAHB was a small miss, but still sentiment refuses to see an uptick. So this existing home sales numbers and the FHFA housing price index out Monday and Tuesday morning will help continue that tone. And of course we get the U.S. Manufacturing Services PMI prelim on Tuesday, and then the first of 3 bond auctions. We got a 2-year sale on Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday, that may be MBA mortgage applications and the new home sales, continuing that housing theme. And then, of course, crude inventories and a 5-year sale. Moving on to Thursday, the advanced trade in goods, as well as the durable orders numbers. These tend to be pretty volatile, so certainly of interest. Claims, non-event natural gas inventories, and then a 7-year note auction. Finally, on Friday, I should have put this in on the key sentiments, so I do apologize for this. First look at the Q2 GDP number. Certainly, we can be sure the administration will be keeping a close eye on that one. Right now, the expectations for it, let me pull that up. The Briefing.com consensus stands at plus 4.1%. That 4% number is certainly a key number, but I think it might have more of an impact on the interest rates rather than the equity numbers, because we already have a strong earnings season pointing this out. So I don't know if 4% GDP growth is going to excite people to rush in and buy, or if it's going to make people a little bit more nervous because it's going to drive up expectations of a 4th rate hike. Certainly we've seen the president try to get out and soften the blow, and in my opinion, kind of get ready for a little bit of finger pointing on any downside activity that we see. But this Q2 GDP print will be one of the more interesting GDP numbers that we've seen in some time. Moving on to the earnings front, we'll just glance through these quickly. I mean, there's just a ton of names, so I'm not going to sit there and rattle off all the tickers. You guys can take a look, but some of the highlights early on Monday will be Halliburton continuing what hasn't been all that much of an impressive start for the energy space. In the afternoon, we'll get Alphabet, Steel Dynamics, and Whirlpool. So Alphabet certainly on the tech front, and then the Steel Dynamics and the Whirlpool give us a little bit of insight into the trade impact. On Tuesday, we've got 3M out early, giving us some more look at some staples. Biogen for the pharma front. Harley-Davidson, another trade name to keep an eye out on here. Lockheed Martin, LMT out, UTX, so another industrial. Verizon, one of my longs, will be out, so telecom will start coming. And then in the afternoon, another telecom play, AT&T, and 2 tech names, Texas Instruments and Teradyne. Wednesday, Boeing out, another big trade name out there. Coca-Cola giving us some staples look. Freeport-McMoRan, which has been a hot name given the drop in copper. General Motors and LAD are going to be out giving us some insight into the tariff impact on auto. Trivago, which is, I know, been a big tech T name that a lot of people are trading on our site. UPS, another nice read into the economic pulse there. And then in the afternoon, chip play AMD's out, Citrix, F5, Facebook, Ford, PayPal, Qualcomm, Mondelez on the staples side. So big tech afternoon and some more staples. Moving on to Thursday, the busiest day of them all probably. We got MO due out, Bristol Myers. Who else? We got Triple L, Lear, giving us more insight into the car, McDonald's, Nokia, one of my longs, Oak Tree, which means we'll get to hear from Howard Marks. In the afternoon, we're going to get Spotify, Under Armour's out that day, Amazon, which a few people might be interested in, Refinery Play, Valero, VLO due out, EA, First Solar, Juniper, Starbucks, Western Digital, big names out. And then finally Friday, July 27th, another big energy day with CVX and Exxon Mobil out. Merck going to be presenting for the pharma side, and SYF, who's probably going to lose their Walmart business to Capital One, so maybe a little bit of color there. And then Twitter, which should be one of the more interesting tech names after they got rid of a bunch of their users, which they viewed as having the data being double entries. So as you can see, just a monster week for earnings with a lot of high quality names out there. Then moving on to the international economic data side, on Monday, July 23rd, an early report from the Bundesbank could be of interest. Eurozone consumer confidence due out on Monday morning, so always a good read. And then that night we're going to start the PMI rollout with Japan. Turning to Tuesday, Bank of Japan's CPI numbers are expected out early, and then we get those Eurozone PMI numbers. A little bit later we'll get the Mexico's CPI figure, and that'll lead us on a busy Tuesday. Wednesday, we get the first of those German sentiment surveys with the IFO business survey due out, which should be the primary number to keep an eye out there. South Korea's Q2 GDP number, obviously a big semiconductor space, so want to see what they're up to. And then moving on to Thursday, we get the Germany's GfK consumer survey out, completing a busy week of sentiment numbers. We also get, of course, the ECB, which really looking to see how they kind of take their lead from those trade talks on Wednesday. And then finally, on Friday, July 27th, we'll get China's industrial profits and France's preliminary look at the Q2 GDP, as well as some German import prices. And that pretty much does it. That corporate and conferences we kind of already touched upon, the G20 and those US-EU trade talks, obviously key themes, but nice week for us. Should be plenty of headlines, plenty of earnings reports to give us something to chew our teeth on the micro side, and hopefully, as I said, knock us out of some of this dead trading that we've seen, because if we don't get it soon, I can tell you this, August is going to be a snooze fest. That's going to lead us into September. Probably get the sell-off in September when I go on vacation, and the end of September, early October, because that's the market always likes to see me get active whenever I decide to take some time off. So, but hopefully, again, the next 2 weeks we'll get a little bit more energy in the market, and open up a few more trading ideas. As I mentioned on InPlay, we taped this, so I'm going to be posting this to the site. So if you didn't get a chance to hear everything,
computer was sitting in the lost and found, and it automatically connects you to this thing. Dude, this
hopefully you guys could use this as a nice primer on
oh my god.
the afternoon. Maybe Sunday night can help you go to sleep.
What the hell? They've all been watching.
Or you get up for Monday or something good like that. But a lot of good activity and a lot of stuff that
Unfriended, dark web, rated R.
Discuss next week. So looking forward to that, and I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Sold or exploited. That's why you need Nord.